Good day, everyone. We are here to present to you our research entitled
The impacts of using smartphones to the academic performance of grade 11 students of FEMA University of Pangasinan.
Research problem. Our study aims to answer the following questions. Number 1. What are the profiles of the respondents in terms of name, age, and gender? Number 2. How many hours do students spend in using smartphones? Number 3. What is the academic performance of grade 11 students of FINMA University of Pangasinan? And number 4, is there a significant impact of using smartphones to the academic performance of the grade 11 STEM students of FINMA University of Pangasinan? Next is scope and the limitation of the study. This study focused on the possible impacts of using smartphones to the academic performance of the students. The range of time being consumed was from June up until October 2019 for data gathering and making authentic conclusions out of the processed data. The researchers used non-random sampling for gathering data and information. Furthermore, the researchers conducted the study on the premises of FINMA University of Pangasinan, wherein the researchers have chosen the grade 11 STEM 02A students as the respondents of the study.
Background of the study. Recent developments in mobile technologies have produced a new kind of device, a programmable mobile phone, the smartphone. Smartphones are everywhere nowadays. It is the new generation of mobile phones. They have emerged over the last few years and have already conquered the market and are being used by people for calls, SMS, emails, browsing the internet, blogging, social networks, watching videos, reading ebooks, and many more ways. This new discovery in terms of the variety of smartphones usage led to a change in the way of a person views the use of smartphones. Most smartphone and recreational applications are addictive to the students, which in turn affects their academic performances. Next is motivation in pursuing our research study. Our motivation for this research study was our fellow students who are engaging in smartphones that may affect their academic performance. Because nowadays, smartphones have a huge impact on our academic performance. We conducted this study to know the positive and negative impacts of smartphones to the academic performance of these students. Next is the significance of the study. The results of this study will be beneficial to the following: students, teachers, parents, schools, society, government, researchers, and future researchers. For the students, the study will benefit students, for this may help them to be more aware of what are the impacts of smartphones on their academic performance, and thus they could adjust on what are needed depending on the results of the research. Also, this may serve as an eye-opener to those students. For teachers, the result of the study will help the teachers provide encouragement to think of ideas that will give proper guidance to the students. Also, the teachers would be more considerate about the idea that smartphones are not bad at all to a student's performance. Also, this research will show them to what extent the smartphones are used to a class and its limitations. To parents, the result of the study will help the parents to understand the factors why their children get better grades or lower grades, and they will be aware of the impacts of smartphones on the children's academic development. To the school, the result of this study will also be beneficial to the school, and this study will be able to guide the students and for them to know what are the possible impacts of using smartphones. To the society, the result of this study will be beneficial to the society because this study will also serve as an eye-opener to everyone in the society to be guided by their actions in using smartphones. To the government, This study will benefit the government because through this, they will know the smartphone has an impact to the academic performance of the students, and they will make an action on how to lessen its negative effects. To researchers, the result of this study will also be beneficial to the researcher, and through this may be able to help and share some ideas and also to guide the readers and future researchers to the right path. Lastly, future researchers. This study will guide the future researchers to their ongoing research.
Research procedure. Under research procedure, we have 3 parts. Research instrument used in obtaining data. Second, how data were gathered. And lastly, limitations and jury solutions. Research instrument used in obtaining data. Rating scale and Likert scale questionnaire were chosen as data collection instrument. A questionnaire is printed self-report form designed to elicit information that can be obtained through the written responses of the subjects. The information obtained through questionnaire was similar to the obtained by interview, but the questions tend to have less depth. Data was collected with the aid of questionnaires to evaluate the impacts of using smartphones to the academic performance of grade 11 students of Finma University of Pangasinan. The questionnaire was composed of 3 parts. Part 1 was about the profile of the students, including their name, age, and gender. Part 2 was about the exposure of the respondents on their smartphones, if how many hours did they spend on using smartphones. And lastly, part 3 focused on academic performance of the respondents.
And now, let us go on the findings. Findings were presented in tables following the sequence of the specific research problems regarding the impacts of using smartphones to the academic performance of grade 11 students of Finma University of Pangasinan. We, the researchers, aimed data that revolved on the profile of the respondents with respect to age and gender, exposure to smartphones, and academic performance. A number of 43 grade 11 STEM 02 students were chosen as our respondents. The result of this study were analyzed and interpreted thoroughly. And now, let us go on to the profile of the respondents. This section presents the profile of the 43 respondents in terms of their age and gender. For the statistical treatment of data gathered and collected, we use a frequency count and percentage distribution. Table 1.0 shows that most of our respondents were female, and when it comes to age, most of our respondents were under 16 to 20 years old. Next is the exposure to smartphones. This section presents the exposure to smartphones of the 43 respondents based on the range of hours of using their smartphones. For the statistical treatment of data gathered and collected, we use a frequency count and percentage distribution. Table 2.0 shows that most of our respondents were using their smartphones for 6 to 7 hours per day, while none of them were using 0 to 1 hour per day. Next is the academic performance of the respondents. This section presents the academic performance of the 43 respondents based on the indicator statements provided on the table. For the statistical treatment of data gathered and collected, we use the average weighted mean. Table 3.0 shows that almost all of the indicator statements gathered a high transmuted description. These findings imply that the academic performance of the respondents were high. Lastly, let us go on to the significant relationship of smartphones and academic performance of the respondents. This section presents the relationship between usage of smartphones and academic performance of the respondents. For the statistical treatment gathered and collected, we use the person-arc correlation. Table 4.0 shows that the computed value of R was 0.0738, which means that the variables have perfect positive correlation. Therefore, the given statistics provide sufficient evidence for us to reject the null hypothesis. However, there is a significant relationship between usage of smartphones and academic performance of the respondents.
Based on the findings of the study, the following conclusion were drawn. First, people our age of 16 to 20 years old were more prone to smartphones because they tend to have more time on socializing with other people through smartphones. Second, smartphones are important these days due to the connectivity they provide. This is not just improvement to phone calls and text messaging, but also you can use Facebook and other social networking sites. Third, good academic performance is important because it is strongly linked to the positive outcomes we value. And lastly, fourth, usage of smartphones has positive impacts to the academic performance of the students. With the use of smartphones, they can easily search information they need.
Based on the findings of this study, the following recommendations were formulated. First, schools should encourage more parents to study medical and health courses, whether male or female, by nurturing the next generation of male and female scientists, technologists, and designers. We can help build more inclusive communities and better, brighter futures. Second, the school should have a proper orientation on how to set priorities in using smartphones. This highly needed orientation must be headed on the school management and shouldered by the parents of the students. Third, students should be taught study skills so they can cultivate good and effective study skills. It is necessary for students and teachers to maintain warm relationship, and this will enhance students' easy approach to the teacher for solving of academic problems. And lastly, the researchers recommend future researchers to conduct the same study to offer new findings, to validate the findings in another settings, and to conduct research studies in the same field for development that may further help nurses of today and for generations.
Societal importance. How will your study contribute to the society and to the body of knowledge? Our study can contribute much to the society. For example, if we know the negative effects of using smartphones to the academic performance of the students, they would lessen their usage of the smartphones for them to be more effective at school. And in terms of the body of knowledge, it can also contribute much because it will add to the said knowledge of the students.
What is your motivation for this study? We observed that students nowadays are being addicted to smartphones, so we conducted this study to know the positive and negative impacts of using smartphones to the students.
What is the scope of the study? The study focused on the possible impacts of using smartphone to academic performance of grade 11 students. It was conducted at Filma University of Pangasinan.
What limitations did we encounter? The limitations that we encountered were the sudden change of the respondent, so we need to find new respondents immediately. Also, a lack of time.
Why are your research questions interesting or important? It is important because it will serve as our guide in conducting our research. With the use of our research questions, we will determine the impacts of smartphones to the academic performance of the students. And also, it is interesting because it is relatable to many, especially to our respondents.
Cite the two most important sources for your work. How did they help you to accomplish your study? The two most important sources of our work were the internet and our survey. The internet helped us make our research easier because it contains all the information that every researcher needs. Also, the survey helped us a lot because it contains the data that we need in order to write our findings.
What is your research methodology? Why choose this method? For the purpose of this study, a descriptive correlational design was used. A descriptive design was selected because it provides an accurate portrayal or account of the characteristics, for example, behavior, opinions, abilities, beliefs, and knowledge of a particular individual, situations, and group. This study was correlational, for it demanded the degree to which the variables were related to each other using various statistical instruments.
Who are your respondents? How many are they? And what was the sampling method used? Our respondents were 43. Grade 11 STEM 02A students. We use non-random sampling, specifically the purposive sampling method.
What is your measurement instrument? The measurement instrument we used were frequency count, percentage distribution, average weighted mean, and person-hour correlation to obtain data from respondents.
What are your findings? We found out that most of our respondents were female, and majority of them were of age 16 to 20 years old. Most of them are using their smartphones for 6 to 7 hours per day, while none of them were using their smartphones for 0 to 1 hour per day. When it comes to their academic performance, they are showing high academic performance in school. However, there is significant relationship between usage of smartphones and academic performance of the respondents.
What's original about your work? The original in our work is we, researcher, have our own research questionnaire and purpose of the study. We also describe the hypothesis based on the data that we have gathered.
What are the strongest and weakest part of your study? The strongest part of our study is that our topic is very timely, meaning that most of our respondents can relate to the said topic, while the weakest part of our study is that we only have limited number of respondents.
Based on your findings, what are your recommendations? We recommend that students should be taught proper orientation on how to set their priorities on using smartphones, so that they can cultivate good and effective study skills.
What is the importance of your study? The importance of our study is that we were able to know the impacts of smartphones to the academic performance. And through our study, we can make other people aware, especially our respondents, to the impacts of using smartphones to their academic performance.
What would you change if you were to conduct the study again? If I were to conduct the study again, I would change the setting of the study and add more respondents for us to gather more informations.
What advice would you give to yourself if you could go back to the start of your research? I would advise to myself that I must first find a topic that is timely, so that every student can relate to it. Secondly, I will make sure that all the data that were gathered are precise. And lastly, help each other in accomplishing their work if they are struggling to finish it.
The impacts of using smartphones to the academic performance of grade 11 students of FEMA University of Pangasinan.
I am Christine.
I am Ralph.
I am Stephen.
I'm Mark.
I'm Krisha.
I am Faith.
I am Bernard.
I am Kevin.
I am Raymond.
I am Angel.